And I think that the level of bitterness that Harry feels towards William is off the scale. They talk about, oh, well, it's because Meghan and Catherine, Princess of Wales, fell out during the lead up to Harry and Meghan's wedding. They talk about the fact that Harry and William argued about Meghan. Williams expressed doubts about whether or not she was the right woman. They had fights and so on and so forth. But I think underlying all of that is, the whole title of that book, Spare. Harry will always be furious that he's the number two, that he was never heir to the throne. So what annoys Harry about...
So will Meghan.
Yeah, especially. But what annoys Harry, what will always annoy Harry, is that he wasn't the firstborn.
There is a report that I sent you about how there's been an increase in stalkers for the British royal family since Harry and Meghan. And, I'll read some of the stats for you. Files on a total of 536 stalkers were recently passed from the Met Police Royal Protection Group for investigation by Britain's Specialist Fixated Threat Assessment Center. 19 of the stalkers probed were ruled to be of high concern, while 254 were ruled to be of moderate threat to the royals. But when we read quotes like, Meghan's instinct is to shield both herself and the children from experiences she worries could reopen painful chapters. I don't want to be insensitive, but there were maybe 2 inappropriate headlines about Meghan Markle. And actually, I feel confident in saying that because we get the same. Meghan constantly brings up those headlines, and it's the same 2 examples, straight out of Compton, whatever the other one was. Why is she truly so insensitive, or is she truly so insecure that she considers a couple of headlines and Prince William trying to hold her accountable for aggressive behavior as painful chapters? To me, this is a weak woman who just cuts and runs when things don't go her way. That's a great point. Before I let you go, let's read some of the actual quotes from the divorce stories that are circulating, because I did tease that and I don't want to let anybody down. Radar Online says Prince Harry is now so deeply unhappy in California, he's intent on quitting his life in the United States, with sources telling Radar he's now homesick. A lost Duke who feels stalled, isolated, and desperate to reclaim a sense of purpose away from Hollywood and the massive cold shoulder it's given him. They've talked about how he struggles to find friends and how he's increasingly preoccupied with returning to Europe or relocating elsewhere. One source said Harry has reached a breaking point with life in California and has been blunt with Meghan, LOL. Because blunts are also pot. That he no longer sees a future for himself there. He feels profoundly unhappy and directionless, frustrated that the professional opportunities he hoped for would materialize never truly did.
Harry doesn't understand that, and he has not taken the rejection that they have received from Hollywood at all well, and so he sees a plethora of projects that didn't work out. His awful polo show was a disaster. He had plans for friendships, for projects, none of which have happened. He doesn't really have any close friends over there. He is frankly a British ship adrift in a very foreign land, California. I know about this. You can't, you know what Margaret Thatcher said. America and Britain are 2 countries divided by a common language. I think that's going a bit far. I think we've all got a lot in common, Americans and Brits. But I went from London to Hollywood to California, and it's a very different place. I loved it, but it is a very different place.
And this is to a point you made earlier too. Harry and Meghan don't understand royal protocol. They clearly don't respect royal protocol. Harry doesn't understand why William gets things that he doesn't, that he's not offered.
Right. Yeah.
Except they demand to be treated like royals. They still want the perks while they disrespect and disparage. I mean, go watch the Harry and Meghan Netflix series, their only commercial success, where they talk about what racists the royal family, history has, and how racist the royal family is through experts, through a variety of different experts. But it's like they want the security, they want the perks, they want you to announce the Duchess of Sussex when you're alone in a brownstone in New York City. But she wants Duchess of Sussex slapped across magazine covers. Hi all, welcome to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm here with Kevin O'Sullivan. You watch us together on the amazing Political Asylum with Kevin O'Sullivan twice a week on Talk. Kev, you've asked me a couple of times over the last few weeks that we've been back to work, what's going on with Harry? And I keep saying to you, lots and lots of stories predicting problems, divorce between the Sussexes. So I pulled some of those stories for you because some of the quotes are just too good. Before I get into some of the quotes, what's your reaction there? Because you've said Meghan will never step foot back in the UK. And that's really the theme of the issues at the heart of these stories, that Harry longs to go back home. Harry misses his old life. And Meghan's like, never again. I have jam to sell. It's very important.
Exactly. I think this is coming to a head, a crescendo. Harry clearly, I've had a couple, that's how low down the fame ladder the stalking syndrome can go. And when you're being stalked, it's quite alarming, to say the least. The person who stalked me was like this 80-year-old woman. It's like, leave me alone. But seriously, stalking is a problem. Now, Harry has basically gone, oh, look, I've got this stalker, so therefore you've got to give me a gun guard, as if he's the only one who ever got a stalker. This is part of
and also my point in bringing this up to you is that Harry and Meghan, we just watched them sit down with Gayle King over Zoom to talk about protecting children online and online bullies. And you're just thinking, but you are allegedly bullies in the real world. I would argue that I've witnessed them be bullies to the British royal family in the form of the Oprah Winfrey interview, where they made allegations that they later backtracked. And their bullying is having real world consequences on the working royals.
I think that is a long shot. But all of this quite clearly is setting up serious tension in that marriage, because Meghan doesn't like Britain, doesn't like England, doesn't really want to come back. And frankly, this July trip, the newspapers over here in Britain are full of it. Oh, Meghan set for a sensational return. Frankly, Kinsey, I'll believe it when I see it.
Me too. I that is just so annoying to me that that's the route that everyone's going. And it's like, is it wishful thinking? Because I know a lot of people over there that would really prefer for her never to come back either. Meghan's such an interesting character, and I'll get back to some of those headlines in a second, but just listening to the way you talk. Normally, we would look at someone like Meghan, and I'm not saying she has a great work ethic, because remember with Archetypes, she only popped in for the A-listers. There were one of her 17 executive producers, or she just had an ungodly amount of staff on that one, and someone else would do the low profile interviews, and she would only pop on to talk to Mariah Carey or Paris Hilton. We talk about motives for a second, because you and I've spoken about two different motives, and I lean towards a more sinister motive. We read constantly that Harry's homesick, and how do you not believe it when he's caught on a Ring door cam aimlessly, wandering the neighborhoods of London,
looking for friends,
right? looking for friends. Yeah. And one comment that stood out to me in this first, if I ever get to it, Radar article, was that Harry has a hard time establishing new friendships here in the States. I have heard that from people that are close to Meghan, that Meghan will say, yeah, he's struggling to make new friends here. So I definitely believe that. We talk about Harry being homesick and just wanting to be back with his mates and just wanting to go to a pub and enjoying his old life. But I also see in Colombia. Where else did they go?
Put it this way, Kinsey. You and I, royal watchers and all that, you've got to watch very carefully what happens in July. Is Meghan coming back or is she not? And furthermore, is the British government really going to finally give Harry the gun guards, the police gun guards he demands? They spent 2 years, the British government, but by the way, don't forget, that's Harry's father's government. That is King Charles's government. So this legal battle with the government has been really embarrassing for Charles, his son's battle with the government. Now, that notwithstanding, the British government has spent more than 2 years fighting Harry every step of the way in the courts, spending a lot of taxpayers' money to defend their case. Their case being, we do give armed police protection, automatic armed police protection to some frontline working royal family members here. So what can he do? He just looks backwards, yearns for the life he used to have. And, people are talking about, the potential 26 is going to be a make or break year for Meghan and Harry, for the Sussex.
Oh my gosh, we've said that every year since 2021.
Exactly. You see, but I mean, it could, look, what I'm trying to say, Kinsey, is I'm reticent to gather around this talk of divorce, and that I think is where the tension is coming in, because Harry clearly is getting sick and tired. Everything is all about her. To go back to what we originally discussed, what you and I talk about a couple of times a week on my show, The Political Asylum, it is always, Meghan's doing this, Meghan's doing that, as ever's in trouble, has she sold 1 million jars of jam, or can't she sell 1 million jars of jam, is she going to do a new podcast series, look, she's making a movie, now she wants to make a documentary about Diana, and so on and so forth. This is all about her. And then the question, what about Harry? I don't know. What's he doing? He's not doing anything. Now, I'm not a massive admirer of Harry, but I'll cut him this slack. I think he's a guy. I think he's a bloke. He's a man's man. And he wants, for his self-respect, he wants to fill his life. He wants a fulfilled life. He hasn't got a fulfilled life at the moment. He's not doing anything. And if she doesn't, if she gets 2% she doesn't want, then she says that's incredibly painful. So the problem for Harry in this kind of compromise that he clearly wants to work out is, can I spend a couple of months back in Britain? Can I take the kids back for a couple of months? Can I do some royal duties? Let's go and meet the king a bit more. The problem with that, in terms of their marriage, is I don't think Meghan will want that. And Meghan doesn't do what she doesn't want. And if she does get to be made to do what she doesn't want, she starts sort of unraveling and calling it incredibly painful. So going forward,
and racist.
Yeah, and but by the way, the very insulting and unfair headline about her being straight out of Compton. Everybody in California and Los Angeles understands that. The joke about that was in Britain. No one knew what it meant.
Right.
It was a very American kind of insult, and that is another reason why, interestingly, Meghan doesn't want this rift between the gruesome twosome in Montecito and the British royal family to get too deep, because she knows that when William becomes king, she will not be the Duchess of Sussex anymore unless she plays her cards right. I think William will swim the axe pretty soon, pretty swiftly, and she will become Mrs. Sussex or Mrs. Markle or whatever the hell she wants to call herself.
She should be Meghan Mountbatten Windsor, but they're going to refuse that now that Andrew has dirtied it up with his Epstein antics. Forget harsh cleanses, Peak delivers gentle daily support inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. Their routine uses 2 simple blends. The first is a warming turmeric mix with cinnamon and black pepper, designed to help the body absorb it better and support the liver while calming inflammation. The second is a ginger and cinnamon blend that helps with blood flow, digestion, bloating, and immune support. The magic is how they work together to activate and flush for better digestion, stable energy, less brain fog, and that light, clear feeling. My energy is consistent now. Skin is clearer and less bloating. That's Peak, where spirit meets science. Redefine your standard of health, secure 20% off your order, and begin your intentional wellness journey today at peaklife.com/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey.
These are two royals whose marriage hangs in the balance over one explosive question. Should they return to Britain? Prince Harry desperately wants to come home, but Meghan Markle's resistance is tearing their relationship apart. It's January 2026, and behind the closed doors of their Montecito mansion, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex face their most consequential battle yet. After nearly 4 years of self-imposed exile in California, Harry is mounting what sources call a major bid to return to the royal fold. But Meghan's digging in her heels, and the tension has become impossible to ignore. The stakes couldn't be higher. Their children, 6-year-old Prince Archie and 4-year-old Princess Lilibet, haven't set foot on British soil since they were toddlers at the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee in June 2022. Harry, now 41, finds himself caught between his 44-year-old wife's trauma and his own desperate longing to reconnect with his homeland and his ailing father, King Charles. This isn't just about homesickness. Multiple sources reveal the couple's American dream has turned into something of a nightmare. Their attempts to build an independent media empire have stumbled. Meghan's lifestyle brand struggles to gain traction. The reality of their post-royal existence has proven far more challenging than either anticipated when they dramatically walked away from royal duties in 2020. Now, as a crucial security review by the Royal and VIP Executive Committee approaches its decision this month, Harry sees his chance. The committee, known as RAVEC, is conducting its first assessment in 6 years of Harry's protection needs. If approved, it would remove what Harry calls the single biggest practical barrier to bringing his family home. But even if security gets granted, another barrier looms large: Meghan's deep-seated resistance to returning to the country she associates with unhappiness, fear, and anxiety. Royal sources reveal that Harry has been begging his wife to reconsider, conversations that have caused notable friction in their marriage. The irony is palpable. The woman who once embraced royal life with enthusiasm, who charmed Commonwealth leaders, and seemed destined to modernize the monarchy, now recoils at the thought of stepping foot on British soil again. Her last visit was in September 2022 for Queen Elizabeth's funeral, a somber affair where she maintained a dignified but distant presence. To understand Meghan's reluctance, you have to revisit her final public appearance before that funeral. At the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in June 2022, Meghan faced scattered but audible boos from the crowd gathered outside St. Paul's Cathedral. For someone who had been welcomed as a breath of fresh air just 4 years earlier, the hostile reception was a crushing blow. Royal expert Jenny Bond warns that while Harry will most likely receive a warm reception when he goes back to Britain, the same won't be the case with Markle. This public rejection crystallized Meghan's feelings about Britain. Friends close to the Duchess describe her dread at the prospect of returning, viewing the UK through the lens of the relentless media scrutiny and family tensions that ultimately drove them away. The country that was supposed to be her fairy tale home became, in her mind, the source of their suffering. Harry's perspective couldn't be more different. In a revealing BBC interview in May 2025, he laid bare his frustration with their current situation. "It's impossible to return under existing arrangements," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show my children my homeland." The pain in his words was unmistakable, as he spoke about Archie and Lilibet growing up disconnected from their British heritage. That interview came just days after Harry's unsuccessful High Court challenge to the government's security arrangements. He had hoped the courts would force the Home Office to provide adequate protection for his family, but the ruling went against him. Harry's team branded the ruling a good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up, revealing their deep frustration with what they saw as institutional resistance to their return. The security issue isn't just about protection, it's about principle. Harry believes his royal status and the ongoing threats against him and his family justify state-funded security. The government's position has been that as a non-working royal living abroad, Harry doesn't qualify for automatic protection. This standoff has effectively held the family hostage in America, unable to visit Britain safely. But now, something has shifted. Reports emerging throughout late 2025 and into January 2026 suggest that RAVEC is reconsidering Harry's case. Sources indicate he may be granted his wish for restored security protection. If true, this would be a massive victory for Harry, and potentially the key that unlocks his return strategy. The timing isn't coincidental. King Charles's ongoing health concerns have reportedly improved relations between father and son. Harry is described as keen to visit his father amid his ongoing health concerns, and sources suggest Charles Charles would welcome a reconciliation, the prospect of his grandchildren growing up as strangers has weighed heavily on the king, and palace insiders hint at a softening of attitudes toward the Sussex family. Harry's return strategy centers around the Invictus Games, his most successful post-royal venture. The 2027 Games are scheduled for Birmingham, and Harry has reportedly set July 10, 2026, as the date for the one-year countdown event in the same city. It's a clever approach, using his most popular and non-controversial work as the vehicle for re-entry into British public life. The Invictus Games represent everything Harry does well, supporting military veterans, inspiring wounded warriors, and using his platform for genuine social good. It's terrain where even his critics struggle to find fault. By anchoring his return around these games, Harry provides political cover for any official support and presents himself in his most sympathetic light. But here's where the marital tension becomes most apparent. While some reports suggest Meghan Markle is said to have set a date for a return to Britain in 2026, and that she is expected to accompany Prince Harry to the Birmingham event, other sources paint a dramatically different picture. These conflicting narratives reveal either masterful spin management or genuine uncertainty within the Sussex camp about Meghan's participation. Radar Online sources provide insight into the couple's internal dynamics. Harry is mounting a major bid to worm his way back into the royal family. And it's hugely significant, Meghan is set to accompany him on his latest return to Britain for the first time in 3 years. But the same source adds a telling detail. Word is they both would prefer an easier life back in the folds of the firm, after seeing the realities of trying to get projects like Meghan's lifestyle brand off the ground. This admission of struggle is perhaps the most honest assessment of their post-royal experience. The couple who left Britain promising to become financially independent while continuing to support the Queen have discovered that building a media empire from scratch is exponentially more difficult than working within established royal structures. Their Netflix deal, while lucrative, has produced mixed results. Harry's memoir Spare was a bestseller, but further damaged family relationships. Meghan's various ventures have struggled to find their footing in an oversaturated lifestyle market. The children add another layer of complexity to their decision. Archie was barely 3 when they left Britain, and Lilibet was born in California and has never lived in the UK. For them, Britain truly is a foreign country, despite their royal titles. Harry's desire to show them his homeland isn't just about nostalgia. It's about giving his children access to half of their cultural identity. Yet, the question of whether the youngsters might join their parents in Birmingham remains unclear. This uncertainty suggests ongoing negotiations within the family about how much to expose Archie and Lilibet to British public life. Meghan's protective instincts, already heightened by her own traumatic experiences, likely extend even more fiercely to her children. The couple's relationship with the media adds another wrinkle to any return planning. Harry's years-long legal battles with British newspapers over phone hacking and privacy violations have created an adversarial dynamic that won't disappear overnight. Meghan's own complicated relationship with press coverage, from initial adoration to eventual vilification, makes any British appearance fraught with unpredictable media attention. Royal expert Jenny Bond's assessment that Meghan won't receive a warm reception acknowledges this reality. The British public's relationship with Meghan has been complicated from the start, influenced by everything from her American background to her outspokenness about royal life. Her post-Megxit interviews, particularly the explosive Oprah Winfrey special, didn't help repair her image with traditionalist royal watchers. But there are signs that Harry's strategy might be working, at least with his immediate family. Reports suggest he's planning multiple UK visits this year, tied to his patronages, indicating a gradual re-engagement rather than a dramatic one-time return. This incremental approach could allow both the public and the media to adjust to his presence without the circus atmosphere that might accompany a single, heavily hyped visit. The couple's plan to invite King Charles and other royal family members to the 2027 Invictus Games represents a potential masterstroke in reconciliation strategy. By positioning themselves as hosts welcoming the king to their event, they reverse the traditional power dynamic. Instead of supplicants seeking readmission to royal circles, they become gracious hosts extending olive branches to family members. This inversion could be psychologically powerful for both sides. Charles gets to support his son's charitable work without appearing to cave to Sussex demands. Harry and Meghan get to demonstrate their continued relevance and success while making reconciliation gestures. The Invictus Games provide neutral ground where family healing might begin. Yet underneath these diplomatic maneuvers, the fundamental tension between Harry's desires and Meghan's reservations continues to simmer. Friends of the couple describe Harry as increasingly frustrated by what he sees as forced exile from his homeland. He never wanted to leave Britain permanently. He wanted to leave the restrictions and media scrutiny that came with full-time royal duties. Meghan's calculation appears different. For her, Britain represents a chapter of her life that caused immense personal pain. The racist undertones of some media coverage, the institutional resistance to change she encountered within palace walls, and the ultimate failure of their attempt to carve out a new royal role all contribute to her reluctance to return. The timing of any potential return also matters enormously. Summer 2026 would mark nearly 4 years since Meghan's last British appearance, and over 3 years since the children visited. That's an eternity in public consciousness, potentially long enough for some of the animosity to cool. But it's also long enough for the Sussex family to feel genuinely foreign to British audiences. Harry's legal team continues to work behind the scenes on security arrangements, understanding that without adequate protection guarantees, any return remains theoretical. The Ravik Review represents their best hope for a breakthrough, but even positive developments could come with conditions that complicate their plans. The broader context of royal family dynamics also influences their decision-making. With King Charles facing health challenges and the monarchy adapting to his reign, there may be opportunities for reconciliation that didn't exist under Queen Elizabeth's more traditional approach. Charles has always been more personally invested in Harry's happiness, and his own experience as a divorced royal who eventually found acceptance for his choices might make him more sympathetic to his son's journey. Princess Catherine's recovery from her own health challenges has also shifted family priorities toward healing and unity rather than punishment and exclusion. The Wales family's approach to Harry during his brief visits for family events has been notably warmer than in the immediate aftermath of his departure. But perhaps the most telling aspect of this entire situation is what it reveals about the Sussex marriage itself. The reports of Harry begging Meghan to return, and their conversations causing notable friction, suggest a couple grappling with fundamentally different visions of their future. Harry's identity remains deeply tied to his British heritage, his military service, and his role within the broader royal narrative. Despite the pain of recent years, he sees potential redemption and renewed purpose in returning home. Meghan's identity has evolved toward her American roots and her role as an independent entrepreneur and advocate. For her, returning to Britain might feel like moving backward rather than forward. This divergence in vision creates an almost impossible situation for their relationship. If Harry suppresses his desire to return, resentment could build over time, particularly as his father ages and opportunities for reconciliation diminish. If Meghan gets forced into a return she doesn't want, her unhappiness could poison the experience and damage their marriage. The children complicate this dynamic further. As Archie and Lilibet grow older, their own questions about their British heritage and royal status will intensify. Harry's desire to share his homeland with them will only grow stronger, while Meghan's protective instincts may make her even more resistant to exposing them to British media attention and public scrutiny. Financial considerations also lurk beneath the surface of their decision-making. While their Netflix deal and other ventures have provided substantial income, the costs of maintaining their California lifestyle, security arrangements, and legal battles are enormous. A return to some form of royal role, even if unofficial, could provide financial stability and institutional support that their independent ventures haven't fully achieved. The American media market, while lucrative, is also incredibly competitive and fickle. The novelty of their royal status won't sustain their careers indefinitely, and their British connections remain their most unique selling point. A strategic return that maintains their American base while rebuilding British relationships could position them for long-term success. As January 2026 unfolds and the Ravik decision approaches, the Sussex family stands at a crossroads that will define their future. Harry's trapped feeling isn't just about geography. It's about the impossible choice between his marriage and his heritage, between his wife's happiness and his own sense of identity and purpose. The resolution of this tension will likely determine not just where they live, but how their story ends. Will they find a compromise that allows gradual British re-engagement while maintaining Meghan's emotional security? Will Harry's desire to return ultimately prove stronger than Meghan's resistance? Or will they find a third path that neither has yet fully articulated? What's certain is that their marriage, their children's future, and their place in royal history all hang in the balance. The boy who walked behind his mother's coffin through London streets has become a man torn between two countries, two identities, and two visions of what his family's future should look like. The next few months will reveal whether love can bridge the gap between Harry's longing for home and Meghan's desire to stay away. Either way, their story is far from over, and the world will be watching as this very modern royal drama continues to unfold.